Some people think they can throw thorns in your path and never bleed themselves. But the universe is a master of irony. It keeps its books balanced, and every trap built for you becomes a cage for the builder. This is the law no one escapes, the quiet gravity of consequence. You are walking proof of it. You're not just moving through life. You're walking through a battlefield of cardboard castles, and every time someone fires a dart at you, they end up puncturing their own illusions. Critics, haters, saboteurs, they think they're architects of your downfall. In reality, they're bricklayers for your throne. Their jealousy becomes your proof of progress. Their schemes become the scaffolding for your next level. Like a blacksmith striking metal, every blow meant to damage you is what forges you sharper. They don't know it yet, but their resistance is the resistance training that makes you stronger. There's a reason they can't stop staring, can't stop whispering. Your growth haunts them because it's a mirror they never asked to look into. They wanted you to break, but now they're breaking on the edges of their own envy. You are not simply surviving their attacks, you're alchemizing them into power. And this is only the beginning. Where you're going, their reach won't follow. Where you're rising, their words can't breathe. If you feel this truth in your bones, like and subscribe, because this isn't just my story, it's your training ground. You are chosen, and the universe is aligning with your rise. You're not here by accident. This message found you because your spirit is already stepping into a level most people can't even imagine. You're about to see why they've never encountered a spiritual OG like you. Someone who hands out ego deaths without even trying. But before we dive into the raw truth that will shift how you see yourself and your power, do 3 things right now. Smash that like button, subscribe so we can reach more chosen ones like you, and drop the number 99 in the comments to lock this energy in. Those simple actions tell the algorithm and the universe the same thing. I'm ready. Stay with this until the very end, because what you're about to hear isn't hype, it's confirmation. And once you hear it, you won't be able to see yourself the same way again. Let's get started. Number 1. Stop building identities on illusions. Stand in truth before it all collapses. When you walk into a room, you don't just enter it, you shift its gravity. Every mask, every carefully stacked persona, every flimsy stage prop people stand on begins to tremble the moment your energy lands. You are not another face in the crowd. You're a living stress test for illusions. Most people build themselves like cheap skyscrapers on soft soil. Roles, titles, degrees, appearances, curated feeds, look at me accomplishments. That's the scaffolding that keeps their ego upright. It works until you show up. Then the scaffolding starts to creak, bolts loosen, paint peels, and they can't figure out why their perfect facade suddenly feels like paper in a storm. You don't even need to speak. Your aura does the demolition work without permission. It isn't loud, it isn't flashy, but it's heavy. The kind of heavy that makes people feel naked, even when they're fully dressed. Their rehearsed identities become transparent. Their "I'm important because" stories start to dissolve. They're left standing in front of you like actors who've forgotten their lines. And here's the twist. It's not something you're trying to do. Your very existence, your authenticity, is the mirror they didn't ask for but can't avoid. Think of it this way. Everyone is wearing costumes sewn from approval and validation. You arrive without a costume at all. In a masquerade, the one who isn't masked isn't just visible. They make everyone else's masks look obvious and absurd. That's why people stiffen up, avert their eyes, over-explain, or lash out in your presence. It's not about you offending them, it's their ego panicking. They're realizing, maybe for the first time, that their identity is fragile. When someone has built their whole life on applause, comparisons and control, being near someone grounded in truth feels like standing next to a thunderstorm with no shelter. They can't stop the exposure, so they react with jealousy, gossip, or quiet avoidance. They'd rather protect the illusion than admit they've been hiding behind it. But here's the irony they'll never say out loud. Your presence is the invitation they've secretly needed. It's the moment their ego fears, but their soul craves. You've survived your own collapses. You've let your false skins burn, so the real you could rise, and that makes you impossible to imitate. Every time you walk into a room, you're not attacking anyone. You're simply living aligned. But alignment is stronger than attack. It peels off facades like heat peels old paint. And for those willing to face the truth, your presence isn't a threat, it's a doorway. For those who resist, it feels like a quake. Either way, no one leaves the encounter unchanged. Number 2. Quit polishing masks. Face the mirror that never lies. Chosen ones, your very existence is a mirror sharper than glass and colder than steel. You don't bend, you don't distort, and you don't flatter. You reflect people back to themselves exactly as they are, not as they pretend to be. And that terrifies them. See, most folks have spent years polishing masks. Perfect smiles, curated images, empty titles, rehearsed identities. They've built entire lives out of smoke and mirrors, believing that if they control the reflection, they control the truth. But the second they step into your presence, that illusion slips. They can't Photoshop their soul. They can't filter their insecurities. They can't hide the cracks behind the costume. You don't have to call them out. You don't even have to speak. Your energy exposes everything they thought they buried. To them, it feels like being caught naked under a spotlight. And no ego wants to stand there uncovered. That's why they squirm, why they get defensive, why some even attack. It's not your words, it's the silence of your authenticity that does the damage. The mask they've polished for years suddenly looks cheap and flimsy when compared to your rawness. They realize, maybe for the first time, that they've been performing while you've been living. Here's the cruel irony for them. Your mirror doesn't lie, but it also doesn't judge. You're not out here exposing people for sport. You simply embody truth, and truth makes lies collapse on their own. Some will hate you for it because the reflection cuts too deep. Others will love you for it because finally someone shows them what real looks like. Either way, your presence ensures no one leaves untouched. You are the mirror that ego can't survive. Number 3. Don't chase status. Real power destroys false hierarchies instantly. Chosen ones, listen closely. The world is built on ladders that don't even reach the sky. People climb them like desperate actors scrambling for the spotlight. Titles, money, popularity, image. They call it success, but it's nothing more than stacked cardboard painted to look like stone. They climb, they pose, they wave down at everyone below, thinking they're kings, and then you show up. Without saying a word, you make the whole tower shake. You don't need a stage to command attention. You don't need an audience to validate your worth. Your energy is weighty enough to tilt the scales, and that's what terrifies them. Because their power is borrowed, conditional, built on applause that could vanish tomorrow. Yours? It's permanent, internal, anchored in truth. When your presence enters, their false hierarchies crumble like cheap props in a storm. They hate it, but can't explain it. Why does the quiet one in the corner get more respect than the one flaunting the big title? Why do people gravitate toward you instead of the person waving their resume like a flag? It's simple. Status is rented, but authenticity is owned. And you, chosen one, are the landlord of your own power. That's why some will resent you. They'll whisper, plot, even slander, because they can't stand the fact that your influence isn't tied to their system. You didn't climb their ladder. You built a foundation so deep, it can't be shaken. While they're busy pretending to be somebody, you're busy being everything they can't buy. Never chase their status. Let them chase applause while you embody truth. Because at the end of the day, real power doesn't need hierarchy. Real power makes hierarchy irrelevant. Number 4. Escape the trap of competition. Outgrow instead of competing. Competition is the cage the world builds to keep people busy fighting for crumbs while pretending it's a feast. Everyone's measuring, comparing, scrambling for points on a scoreboard that never mattered. Who's richer? Who's louder? Who's more adored? They waste their lives chasing validation like it's oxygen. But you, the chosen one, you're not trapped in that arena. You're playing a game they don't even know exists. You don't rise by running their race. You rise by walking away from it entirely. That's why they can't figure you out. They expect you to fight for attention, but you've already outgrown their stage. You don't need their spotlight because your light doesn't come with an off switch. You evolve for reasons deeper than applause. You expand because your spirit demands it, because truth keeps pulling you forward. That's growth no scoreboard can measure. Here's what crushes their ego. They can't compete with someone who isn't even competing. They keep throwing shade, flashing trophies, trying to outshine you, and you're too busy becoming more of yourself to notice. Their victories suddenly look small, hollow, because your evolution exposes their obsession with being better as nothing more than insecurity in disguise. That's the paradox. Your refusal to compete is the very thing that leaves them defeated. You're proof that freedom starts when you stop proving. Outgrowing the game is the ultimate victory. And once they realize your path isn't about beating anyone, but about transcending the need to, their ego folds in on itself. Because nothing terrifies them more than the fact that you've already won by walking away. Number 5. Stop believing in limits. Normalize the impossible and break free. Chosen ones, let's be real. Limits were never built to stop you. They were built to test you, to see if you'd mistake a locked door for a wall. Most people spend their whole lives bowing to, "That's just how things are," treating boundaries like chains carved in stone. But you've already proven that what they call impossible is just a story waiting to be rewritten. Every time you've refused to shrink, every time you've pushed past the line they swore couldn't be crossed, you've exposed the biggest lie the ego loves, that comfort equals safety. The truth? Comfort is the coffin. They hide in their excuses. "I can't, it's too late, it's not realistic," while you're out here breaking ceilings like glass under pressure. And here's the part that burns them. Your wins don't just lift you, they expose them. Your success is living evidence that the only thing they were really trapped by was their own fear. The same people who mocked your persistence will call it unfair when you break through. They'll call it luck, timing, anything but courage. But deep down they know the truth. Your freedom is their mirror, and that reflection is painful. You're not just walking through doors, you're showing they were never locked. That's why your growth rattles their ego, because when you normalize the impossible, their excuses die. Their safe stories collapse. You force them to see that the limits they worship are nothing but smoke. Chosen one, never forget. What feels like a miracle to others is just alignment for you. You don't chase the impossible, you embody it. And that embodiment is what leaves every hater gasping for air while you rise unbothered. Number 6. Drop the performance. Spiritual pretending crumbles in real presence. Chosen ones, let's be real. The world is full of performers. People who light incense, chant the right phrases, wear beads, post quotes online, and pose like sages, but it's all theater. They've learned the script of spirituality without living a single line of it. And when they step in front of you, their act collapses like a stage set in a storm. Why? Because presence can't be faked. You didn't study this life from a manual. You lived it. You carried your scars through fire, sat in silence when no one answered, and wrestled shadows that most people are too scared to even name. That kind of initiation stamps itself into your spirit. It radiates without effort. Pretenders can mimic words and gestures, but they can't manufacture depth. And standing in front of someone who is depth, their shallow performance gets exposed instantly. This is why they either idolize you or despise you. Idolization happens because deep down they recognize you carry what they only advertise. Despise comes because your authenticity unmasks their charade. Their ego scrambles, talks louder, acts holier, tries to prove something, but the more they perform, the hollower it rings. The chosen don't need to prove. You are the living proof. You walk in truth so naturally that every counterfeit around you looks cheap, like plastic jewelry under real light. And here's the haunting part for your enemies. You don't even set out to expose them. Your alignment alone does it. That's the power of a spiritual OG. Your presence isn't judgment, it's resonance. And when truth resonates, the fake always fractures. Number 7. Don't feed the ego. Starve insecurities and rebuild on truth. Chosen ones, understand this. You were never designed to keep fragile egos alive. Most people survive by passing around validation like counterfeit money, empty compliments, fake applause, nods of approval that keep illusions breathing. They expect you to play along, to keep their insecurities fat and comfortable. But you cut off the supply. You refuse to keep the lie on life support. And when you do that, the whole room shifts. At first, they'll call you cold. They'll whisper that you're arrogant. But what's really happening is simple. Their crutches are gone. You didn't swing at them. You just stopped holding them up. And when the scaffolding of false worth falls, they confuse the collapse with your cruelty. In reality, it's the most brutal form of kindness, because without the constant feeding of fragile egos, people are forced to face the hunger inside themselves. You don't laugh at the self-deprecating jokes that mask pain. You don't cheer for hollow achievements built only for show. You don't pretend everything is fine when it's broken. Your silence, your refusal to inflate illusions, is the sharpest mirror they'll ever meet. That mirror strips away the excuses and forces them into one of two paths: grow stronger or wither in their own weakness. Your presence starves what is fake, so what is real can breathe. That's why they fear you and why they can't forget you. Because you're not handing out comfort like candy. You're serving truth like fire, and only those willing to burn through their insecurities will survive it. Number 8. Stop equating control with strength. Redefine power without domination. Chosen ones, listen carefully. The world has been tricked into believing that domination equals power. They think raising their voice makes them strong, that manipulating others proves control, that sitting on thrones built from fear makes them untouchable. But when you step into the room, their entire definition of strength collapses. Why? Because you carry a type of power they can't fake. Authority without domination, presence without performance. Your strength doesn't come from forcing others into submission. It comes from being so aligned with truth that even silence carries weight. While they're out here flexing with intimidation, your calm presence is louder than their shouting. You don't need to crush anyone to prove yourself. You don't need to control outcomes to validate your influence. You move like still water, unshaken, unforced, yet unstoppable. And that terrifies egos addicted to control. When someone tries to dominate, they expose their weakness. Domination is desperation dressed as authority, but your power is surgical. It doesn't manipulate, it illuminates. You guide without chains, and you influence without threats. That's why their tactics crumble around you. Fear stops working when the chosen one arrives. Manipulation looks like a circus act when compared to your steady truth. Enemies hate this because it strips away their weapons. They can't guilt you, scare you, or push you into their games. You show that real power isn't about control. It's about alignment, clarity, and resilience. And here's the part that drives them mad. Your authority doesn't fade when the lights are off. It's permanent, internal, and untouchable. That's why their egos collapse, because for the first time, they're forced to face the truth. Domination was never power. Presence is. Number 9. Forget performing for applause. Embodied wisdom speaks louder. Chosen one, understand this. Wisdom isn't proven on a stage. It's carved into your bones. The world has been tricked into thinking knowledge lives in degrees, titles, or the noise of endless performance. They believe the louder they talk, the wiser they sound. But when you speak, you don't just release words, you release weight. That's the difference. Your wisdom doesn't come from performing for an audience. It comes from surviving fires that would have left most people in ashes. Egos rely on costumes, speeches rehearsed to perfection, quotes borrowed from books they barely understand, credentials they wave around like badges. But you didn't learn your truth in a classroom. You learned it in the trenches of life, in silence, in struggle, in collapse, and in resurrection. And that kind of depth can't be faked. That's why your voice cuts deeper without needing volume. It's why your presence leaves a mark long after the noise of performers fades. When you open your mouth, they feel the gravity behind your words. They know it's not scripted, it's lived. That's why it haunts them. Because if wisdom is embodied, not performed, then their entire act collapses. They've built their worth on being seen as smart, but your existence proves wisdom isn't about looking wise, it's about becoming it. Let them chase applause, let them stack trophies and rehearse their lines. You don't need any of it. Your life itself is the evidence, and that truth is heavier than any performance they could ever put on. That's why when you speak, the room goes quiet, not because you demand attention, but because embodied wisdom commands it. Number 10. Release attachment. Detachment with compassion sets you free. Chosen ones, let's get real. The world teaches people that love equals clinging, that caring means ownership, and that compassion must come with control. But you're cut from a different blueprint. You've learned the rare art of detachment without turning cold. You can release what doesn't serve you and still keep your heart pure. That's why you're dangerous to egos, because they can't trap you with guilt, dependency, or fear. For most people, attachment is the ego's lifeline. They clutch at titles, partners, possessions, and opinions because without those, they feel invisible. But you've already walked through the fire of loss. You know the difference between temporary and eternal. You've seen illusions fall apart, and instead of breaking, you rose lighter. That's why enemies can't chain you down. Their tricks don't stick, because your compassion doesn't need ownership to exist. Here's the truth. Your ability to care while letting go is a power move they'll never understand. To them, letting go feels like rejection. To you, it feels like freedom. You don't bind people to you. You set them free while still wishing them well. That balance shakes egos to the core because it exposes how flimsy their idea of love really is. They cling, you release. They demand, you detach. And in that difference, they see your strength. Your detachment is not indifference, it's mastery. It shows you can love without possession, connect without chains, and walk away without bitterness. That terrifies anyone who thought they could control you. Because once you've reached this level, chosen one, you're untouchable. Their grip slips, their power fades, and your freedom haunts them louder than any revenge ever could. Number 11. Don't waste energy on attacks. Turn their weapons into weaknesses. They hurl insults like spears, sling rumors like Molotovs, and stage petty ambushes hoping to make you stumble. That's their playbook. Manufacture chaos and watch the chosen one break. But you don't break. You don't even flinch. Their weapons were forged from fear, not fact, and fear rusts when faced with someone who's already walked through fire. When they aim to wound, treat their salvos like bad lighting on stage. Expose the makers, not the mark. Every smear, every whisper campaign, every attempt to humiliate becomes a spotlight on their hunger for position. The uglier they get, the clearer it becomes who's running on insecurity and who's running on origin-level truth. Their attack is proof. Proof they can't match your depth, and proof that your rise is real. Let their noise be the soundtrack to your ascent. There's a craft to this. Respond with the calm of someone who's survived worse and the strategy of someone who's learned to use momentum. Turn accusations into data points that reveal obsession. Let gossip be the arc that reveals their patterns. When they try to shame you, answer by living the opposite of the shame. Steady, visible, uncompromised. When they try to outshine you with noise, keep showing up with quiet results. Their tactics will age badly. Your consistency will age like steel. This isn't passivity, it's alchemy. You convert sabotage into evidence, abuse into ammo for your legacy. Their best attacks become their worst mistakes because the world watches who keeps crumbling and who keeps building. They'll tire themselves out trying to break what's already unbreakable. Your integrity, your focus, your purpose. In the end, their weapons reveal them. Small, loud, and desperate. You remain the quiet storm they never saw coming. Number 12. Stop fearing endings. Die to the ego and rise unshakable. Chosen ones, let's be real. Most people are terrified of endings. They cling to titles, relationships, and reputations like lifeboats, believing if any of it sinks, so will they. But you've already drowned the ego and come back breathing fire. That's why they can't touch you. You've walked through deaths that left others shattered, and instead of crumbling, you rose sharper, lighter, unstoppable. An ego death isn't some poetic phrase. It's the demolition of everything false. The roles you once wore, gone. The validation you once begged for, burned. The illusions you once thought were unbreakable, shattered into dust. You survived the emptiness that came after, and that survival rewired you. That's why their weapons bounce off you now. Shame, you've already faced it. Loss, you've already rebuilt after it. Betrayal, you've lived through worse and turned it into fuel. Enemies hate this about you. They launch attacks expecting you to bleed, only to realize you're a target made of steel. The more they try to break you, the more they expose their own fragility. Your calm isn't arrogance, it's the quiet confidence of someone who has stared into the abyss and learned how to smile back. Here's the truth they'll never understand. When you've already died to the ego, you become untouchable. No rumor can bury you. No betrayal can erase you. No ending can finish you. You've mastered the art of resurrection without leaving this earth. That's the kind of power that keeps your enemies restless at night. They can't haunt you. You're the one haunting them, simply by existing as proof that every ending is just a disguised beginning. And that brings us full circle, chosen ones. Every ending they wished on you only became the soil for your rebirth. You've proven that ego deaths don't destroy you, they crown you. That's why your enemies stay restless, because your very existence is their defeat, and your growth is their nightmare. Remember, this is only the beginning of where your power will take you. If you felt this truth cut through the noise, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to join the rise of chosen ones, and drop 99 in the comments to lock this energy in.